Good evening and welcome to the 44th episode of the Midlife Pilot Podcast. We're streaming live on the YouTubes and we're glad you're with us. This is an aviation podcast where we talk all things aviation and midlife and all points in between. We're glad that you're listening to us. My name is Ben. I am a private pilot with an instrument rating in the Atlanta metro area. And with us today, as always, is my friend, Mr. Siskin, live from the deep, live in the heart of Music Row. Hello, Bryan.
Hello, and it is happy hour, if in case you haven't said that yet. So we're doing a happy hour.
I probably need a little bit more bourbon. So, also joining us from the West Coast, our fly sport extraordinaire, our sport pilot extraordinaire is Ted. Welcome, Ted.
Hey, thanks. Yeah. We went from good weather over here to just absolute rain. So I'm definitely in the Northwest.
Well, and we have very nice weather here. So keep that bad weather over there for a little bit longer. I just got my plane back.
Yes.
A few housekeeping issues. This is a live show. Please use the chat. We're reading it as it comes out. We want you to comment and also do all the stuff. Subscribe, like, share. We're trying to get out there to as many people as possible. If you want to leave us some feedback, you can reach us at midlifepilotpodcast@gmail.com. As you can see it on the screen there. And you can also find us on YouTube at youtube.com/@midlifepilotpodcast. So why don't we jump right into our taking off segment? Mr. Siskin.
Yes.
Tell us what's going on. What's the plan? What's going on with you?
Since we're on a visual audience, YouTube, this is for audio ultimately, but you can see this light flashing. It's not a Halloween trick. It's just a bad light fixture that I can't reach from where I'm sitting. But everything's okay. There's not gunfire in the next room or something, but no, I'm good, man. I've you get to do the joys of plane ownership, Ben. You've taught me a lot in that realm. So instead of spending a perfectly nice day flying, I was contorting myself under the panel, scrubbing grease, all that kind of stuff. So it was a good time.
Again, it's a visual medium, and so nobody else will see the picture we got of you underneath the panel.
Oh yeah. So the partner in the airplane, Steve, has, I'm not sure if it's some sort of a dark kind of fetish or something, but he seems to capture me in compromising positions and then post them into the Discord. So yet another reason to get into the Discord, folks, if you haven't already, is to see very just unwanted photographs of me in compromising.
Reminds me of the plumber.
Yeah.
Plumber like shots.
Yeah. But by the way, we didn't explain what happy hour is, but basically that's all it is. We got tired of having a topic and we just thought we would hang out. And I, look, it's like when you have a house party, you invite some people, you don't know who's going to show up. We actually had at least one person show up so far.
That's right.
Besides you guys. So do you guys want to introduce our special guest, or can we just get into it? His camera works right now. If we don't do it now, it's never going to happen.
We already have a Bryan and a Ben. So let's just keep it easy and bring in another Bryan.
Hey guys, what's going on?
So,
hey.
So this is Bryan, known as Just Plain Silly, and commercial pilot. Journey to a commercial pilot, and let's see what else recently.
Multi-engine,
glider.
Not that I did a ride in it. Yeah. But it's one of those things where it's like when I kind of want to do it. So that was a lot of fun. I would like to get my glider rating, and actually more fun than the glider, I got to fly the tow plane. Like that was a tremendous amount of fun. I want to do everything. So.
Yeah. One of everything. Yeah.
So I thought you just made it up. I didn't realize you actually did all of that recently.
I'm not even a pilot. It's all green screen.
Hey, by the way, just so you know, Bryan, I'm with an I, and then you're saying that you're with a Y. Is that right?
I spell it with a Y. That's correct.
Yes. Okay. Well, here's the thing. I've been waiting for one of you Y people for a long time.
It's always the Bryans with the eyes that are like, here's the thing. What's the thing?
Oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah.
Always.
I just feel like, don't you feel that the I is the de facto Bryan spelling?
So here's the deal. So I'll say this. Y is a versatile. Sometimes it's a vowel. Sometimes it's not. It's very flexible. If you take the B off my name, you got a whole name, Bryan. If you take the B off your name, what are you, Rian? Ian? It's like it's. But I will say, more people seem to spell it with an I than a Y. So I will agree that that's the more. Well, you probably don't have to tell people as frequently I'm Bryan with an I. Everybody at Starbucks or wherever writes it down with an I for me. So.
We just need to trade Starbucks or something, because I just get, constantly. I feel like I'm defending all the time, and I'm like, hey, can I just have like one thing? It's also dyslexia wise, like we're brain, right? It's right.
Yeah.
It's right there. But anyway, I just want to.
I guess we had the same experience then. So I'm just going to go back to thinking I'm right and you're wrong then.
Be thankful, because when I go to Starbucks, they're putting friend or den or everything that rhymes with Ben.
I think friend is nice. Friend, come get your coffee.
Yeah. That's one of those where you're like, well, it's got to be mine. Like whatever it is, just say yes.
That's me. That's absolutely right. Well, we're glad you're with us, Bryan. We appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Been flying much lately?
I've been flying my butt off.
Yeah.
A lot. So, and it sucks. Like, well, now it's great. Like this was the worst. I told my wife, I said, if next summer's like this, we're leaving Texas. It was horrible. And going through the commercial and the multi and all that stuff, just right in the middle of August was horrible. So, but I'm coming up on probably more hours than I've ever gotten in a single year before. And that's what I'm trying to do is get as many as I can quickly.
Do you feel like that, you've been doing this for a while. I mean, do you feel like that there's a sort of an ebb and flow to, your interest levels or your desire to do it, or there's one thing to sort of maintain and just kind of have fun versus pushing yourself? Do you feel like you've hit some sort of a new stride with it for some reason?
Oh, I got a reason. So the company I work for is going out of business in December, and I don't have what you guys call a marketable skill set. No, I was a software engineer. That was my degree. Was programming, and I kind of went up through the ranks, and now I'm a director. And the world has changed. My skill set's atrophied quite a bit, and so my we're closing our office in December. And I thought, you know what? I don't know all this new tech, all the stuff the kids are doing. And so I started taking classes, and immediately I was like, this is awful. I don't care about Amazon Web Services. I don't care about the cloud. I don't care about any of these new languages. And so I was like, if I'm going to study, I'm going to study flying. So, someone said something to me that kind of resonated. He goes, you're already $100,000 towards an airline career, because I had like 1,200 hours and stuff. And I was like, that's true. I'm only 300 hours and a couple of night flights and instrument flights away from doing that. And with the pilot shortage that's going on, rates have gotten, livable. So I was like, you know what, talk to my wife about it. And so now I'm entertaining the idea of getting myself positioned to go, okay, I can do this. Do I really want to do it? And see if I can't get out of IT and go fly professionally. I don't know what it looks like, but that's where my head is every day when I wake up, is like, okay, what do I got to do today to get closer to where I can make that decision?
There's so many options out there these days, though, just with the airlines pulling from the corporate side and the contract side and every aspect of it, it trickles down. So yeah, hopefully you'll have a lot of options when that time comes.
I hope so.
That's really cool, man. Do you think that, a lot of us probably feel like, man, if I just would have done this when I was younger. I mean, I know for me, if I would have done it when I was younger, I would probably have done terribly at all of this, because I just was out of my mind. But do you find that at the age, midlife pilot, right? Like, do you find yourself in this kind of sweet spot of having enough interest and drive and discipline to do something with still sort of enough sort of time to sort of deem it kind of like a functional pursuit, right? Like, it's a weird spot to kind of be in, like a second life kind of a thing.
It's a complex question. I always say I wish I started flying sooner, but I was a different person 20 years ago than I am now. And if I had started flying when I'd probably be dead. As I get older, like probably with most people, I become way more risk averse, I should say. So it's probably smart that I got my pilot's license when I was 36, which was probably good. But at the same time, 10 years ago, I was an IT guy making a ton of money, and I was like, you couldn't have convinced me to go to an airline for what they were paying back then. And now it's like, okay, the money's starting to get better. So, but at the same time, I go, okay, I'm 46. The window's closing. If I can get in by 50, I can have a 15-year career. And I think I'd be okay with that. So I feel like now's the time to make the decision if I'm going to make the decision, but I surely do. I have a next door neighbor who flies 777s, and we walk our kids to the bus stop every morning, and he's in a robe and goes back home, and I go to the office. I was like, he's been doing this for 25 years. And I was like, that would have been smart.
I'm in a bit of a similar situation. So I've been working for the same company for a while, but I can actually retire in about 4 years. Mm-hmm. So I won't have to require the same level of income that I'm making right now to pay for the colleges and everything. Yeah. But the goal for me is just to fly somebody else's airplane and not incur the expenses. That's going to be a pay raise right then and there. But you talked about flying the tail draggers with the sailplanes. Mm-hmm. The tow planes is the word I couldn't come up with. I would love to do that. That just sounds like a lot of fun. So, but it's kind of a similar story for me. I'm working on commercial now, do multi-engine next year, and then hopefully be ready to go.
I loved the commercial rating. And I was a VFR pilot for like 9 years, and now I'm shooting all this stuff. The commercial rating did more for my confidence as a pilot than any flight, anything I've ever done. That was hands down my favorite rating. I think everybody should get it, whether you're going to go commercial or not.
I've definitely enjoyed it.
So Bryan, I see a good question here from One Dull Geek. He says, do you worry about flying becoming a job, meaning, losing your passion for it? I
don't. I'm old enough to know what it, my IT career was pretty boring job. I can't imagine a flight that I've been on in the last 10 years where I've been like, man, even now I get up and I feel like the luckiest person in the world that I get to do this, that I'm in a country where I can do it. Like every flight, I'm still looking out the window like a kid. The ongoing joke in my house when we travel is Dad gets the window seat because I've never lost it. And I can't imagine, a friend of mine who flies for the airline said something like only 2% of airline pilots still fly GA. And I'm like, maybe I'll get in and learn that, it's just a job, but it's got to be better than any other job I can imagine. Cause every morning I'm like, I just want to go fly. So I hope not. I'm sure I would lose some of, I don't know, the joy or whatever, but I can't imagine ever not wanting. It's just been a part of me since it's my first memory. So I hope not. And I don't think so. And I hope I'm not being naive saying that.
No, but you're also not like 20 hours into flying and like, this is amazing. It'll never be different. You're over 1,000 hours in, like you kind of know what it's like.
Yeah. I think people are built for it, right? I mean, I've, a lot of, being here in Nashville, I have a lot of friends that I never see because they're all on the road all the time. And as we continue to get older, I just think, man, I can't imagine being on a gig, where I'm playing shows, 200 nights a year or whatever. I don't care if it's to stadiums of adoring fans or not. Like the grind of that seems like it would kind of take it out of you and playing the same stuff and, all that. But they love it, and, so I really do think it's like, people are sort of cut out for whatever the transmutation is of your passion, you know what I mean? Or whatever that, some people have that thing. And then for others, it's like, man, I don't want anybody telling me what to do, or I'm not going to carry that lady's bags, Yeah. Or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, so, well, that's really, and then I want to talk to you real quick also about, what do you call it? Video making.
Sure.
How do you make a video?
We're doing it right now. Actually, there's a camera in front of you, and you just guarantee to talk.
And then how do you write down something that's funny and then say it, and then it's actually funny?
It's tricky. So I write down stuff constantly, and then I let it sit I've got a little whiteboard here, and I've got an Evernote with like 1,000 things in it that I think are funny, and I'm like, oh man, that's really funny. And then the next day you're sober, and you're like, what was that? But no. If I go back to something and like 3 or 4 weeks later, I'm like, that's still kind of funny, then I'll make the video. But it's just write down everything and then reevaluate it later. Cause something might seem funny at the moment. And then I'm like, well, or I can't really figure out how to turn that into a video. I I'm one who I just look at stuff and I try to find the stupidity in it. And I don't know why that's just really easy for me to do. And it's not just aviation, it's dad stuff, it's work stuff, it's everything. And so I just jot down these little notes, and I don't know where the ideas come from, but if I go back to them and I think they're still funny, then I go, okay, how do I make this into a video? And so
do you find it annoying, like sort of like how comedians would have it, you know, where it's like, okay, do something funny.
It's my kryptonite. That's my kryptonite right there.
Yeah. Like, say something funny.
No,
yeah.
Yeah. If you're not funny, we're kicking you off. So come on.
This is my, like, I have serious anxiety around groups of people, and people come up to me and be like, make jokes, do whatever. And I'm kind of like, I gotta go. Like,
like, let me pull out my Evernote.
Oh my God.
So I have a question. So I've been a big fan of yours for a long time, pretty much when you just got started.
Thank you.
Did you ever figure out who was sending you random packages?
Never did.
Still don't know.
Never did. And I had one individual who sent me something, and then I didn't know who sent it, and later said it was him. And I was like, oh, were you sending all those things? He said, no, it wasn't me. I would tell you if I was. So no idea.
That's crazy.
It was weird. And it was super funny. But I'm friends with a guy named Kevin. He had a channel called 310 Pilot. And, Jamie and Kevin are awesome, but they were getting some things, and then it turned into some stalker situations and stuff. And like, I had a couple of situations, and I was like, okay, so take my name out of the FAA database or the address. Like, obviously you can't hide, but I was like, let's try to make it a little more difficult, because it's funny, but it can quickly become not funny. I had someone basically was trying to get a hold of me, and I guess I didn't respond. So they found my wife on LinkedIn and started messaging saying, why isn't your husband responding to me? And then found,
look, I apologize for that.
Yeah. And that's why I joined the podcast tonight, because I want to talk to you. How inappropriate that is.
What's that knock on the door?
Yeah.
Nobody uses LinkedIn, idiot.
So it was very funny, but I'm kind of glad that it's died down a little bit. Although I got some really awesome t-shirts. I'm super appreciative.
It's strange how it's such a sort of subculture of a subculture of a subset of interests on YouTube. It's really such a small world, and it's strange that people would think, I don't know, it's different, I guess, maybe for, I don't know, something more broad-based kind of actual celebrityness or whatever. But it seems strange that in sort of the aviation universe that people have time for that or whatever.
The best thing is I can control it, because it only happens at airports and Home Depot. I was at Home Depot. Me and my wife were shopping, and I was looking at a toolbox, and some guy goes, "You gonna make a video about a toolbox?" I go, "I am very uncomfortable. I don't know who you are." He's like, "I follow your channel." I was like, but it's isolated to airports, so it's like I know if I go to Oshkosh or Sun and Fun or something, I have to prepare to like let the wall down.
Well, there's like that whole Seinfeld thing, right? Where it's Larry David, where he said he's always got people coming up to him being like, it would be a great bit, or whatever. I bet you get a lot of that too.
If you go to the About on my YouTube tab, it's like, I really appreciate that you have a funny idea. Perhaps you should start your own YouTube channel. Like, because one, if I can't make it my kind of funny, then I just can't make it work. But people throw ideas at me all the time. And someone once we talked about an idea or doing something that someone was doing, and then we put it up, and then something happened with their employer, and they're like, take it down. Well, a sponsor had already paid me money, and other stuff goes into it. So I was like, I got to pull it down. So I was like, if I don't come up with it, I appreciate it. I appreciate the thought, but I don't take other people's ideas.
There's a book from the startup like VC world, and the guy says, have you ever noticed that there's no stock market for ideas? Like, the value of an idea is basically zero.
Sure.
And people come to you like, hey, I've got something I'm going to tell you, but you can't tell anyone else. It's just an idea. Like, go execute on it. Like,
Ben, do you have any VC ideas?
Yeah.
Do you think I would tell it on this?
It's actually
just based on what Ted just said 5 seconds ago. Of course, I've got VC ideas. None of them are good, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It's a little known fact. But one of the creative gigs that I'm on, that I do a lot of filmmaking for and other things, on site, what I came up with this thing. We're doing it's called the Idea Generator, and we have a podcast called the Idea Generator Audio Hour. And basically, we set up this whole podcast set up on like a sort of like a bike cart, and we go into this huge public space, and then just bring people in of any kind, and just put them in the sort of headphones and on the mics, and and they're kind of, it's like they want to speak, or they want to like, what's going on in here? And then they get in there, and then I'm just like, yeah, we're just here to talk about ideas, and what's an idea to you? And let's generate an idea. And I have kind of this process for generating ideas with people, and it's been crazy fun, but I never thought like, wow, I really need to be writing more things down, and maybe I could exploit some of these people.
I'd like to ask Bryan with the why. Does he have ghosts in his house? Because Aaron seems to keep coming in and shutting the door, and it just seems to magically open.
I have 3 dogs.
Okay.
Two of them, they just go back and forth opening the door and coming in here, and then they'll start scratching and wanting out. And I don't know what she's doing, but apparently I'm making enough noise that she needs the doors closed. So
just didn't know if we needed to bring a priest over there to exercise the house. I just
no. Do you want a dog?
Sure
you want 3 dogs?
Yeah. So by the way, I did do some flying out in Texas this summer for the first time. And I thought that I was going to die. I thought that the glue that held anything together in the interior of my Cherokee was just going to just come undone. It was, I remember I did a fuel stop at San Angelo.
Oh God.
And it was one of those where it was like, I'm just getting out to get fuel, get some water, use the restroom, get back in and go. And even in that time, and it was probably 105 or something. And I got back in the plane, and I was like, okay, I've got to get out of here. Like I'm dying. I mean, I thought I was going to pass out. Like it was sweat in my eyes and the whole thing. I mean, it's hot here in Nashville, but it was another level. And of course, and I had brought my iPad with me inside because I was checking weather and stuff and whatever. And then when I came back out, put my iPad on the yoke, snapped it on there, and was doing my thing. I call up, I start taxiing, and the iPad just goes out. Of course, I don't have like,
oh man,
any kind of printed back. I have nothing. I'm not doing anything right. And yeah. So then, and it's a weird kind of airport with all this construction. The layout of it's a little bit weird from what I recall. It seemed like one of those kind of like wartime airports where it's like, they made them where they all go, like there's this huge middle part. Anyway, so it's like
the triangle.
There's a high density of like little hot spots at all the little corner areas, but I remember just at one point just being like, I don't actually know where I was like, I was like, hey, can I get a progressive taxi? And, or a right-wing taxi, any kind of taxi, just,
and, what's strange is it was an uncontrolled airport, and he's asking for a progressive taxi.
So this is the best part.
People on CTAF are looking at you like, turn left.
So there's your next video.
Yeah. Right, progressive taxi.
I want to get progressive IFR clearances. I want to do a video on progressive everything that we could possibly do in a plane.
How far you can get. Yeah. So the thing is that I asked for progressive taxi, and I could tell the guy was super annoyed, even though there's 1 or 2 planes on the entire airport. But the guy was just done with me already on the spot, and he gave me some instructions, and it was kind of like I had to go buy some construction and cross over this and do that, and it was a whole thing. But I got up to what I thought was going to be where I needed to, or I guess it was like I needed to cross, but I was going to be crossing and immediately going toward a 45 to the left to actually get sort of on the initial part of the run. It was like sort of where runways kind of meet, and I was at the bottom of it. But anyway, the whole thing is I said, I pulled up to this line because I was kind of afraid to cross and without clarifying. And I said, okay, well, he was talking to someone else for a second. And then he came back to me. I said, I'm sorry. What would you like me to do now? And he goes, why don't you do your run up? I just lost. I was laughing on the radio with him because now I was like, this was pretty good.
Let me roll in a couple of comments here. Bearded Aviator joined us.
I know that guy.
Stoked to see Bryan on here. Yeah. There's there's a subset of people of a certain age on YouTube, and it's like, we all tend to comment on each other's videos and everything else. So I always love it when I see somebody's video and it's like, oh yeah, there's One Tool Geek, there's, Bearded Aviator, there's so-and-so. And it's like, it's just great.
It is interesting because it becomes like, I mean, I try to go through my comments on videos and stuff like that. And Bearded Aviator's one that don't ever change your avatar, because I look for that one. There's a handful of people who have been around for a long time, and I really do make an effort to, because those people are kind. Like there's a lot of people in the comments that drive by and say hateful things, but there's those people who've been around and have been a part of it for a while, and so I like it when I see that avatar. There's about Nathan Ballard's another one. There's a bunch of people that I see come through, and I love seeing the familiar faces, but avatars.
Do want to give a shout out to Alpha Goff from the Opposing Bases podcast. He's joined our chat. He's a friend of the show, and we're glad that he's with us. Yeah. What else do we have there? Austin Brumley.
I'm going to get back to one, but as Jeff says, Generalissimo Golf, because that just came up on AG renamed himself. I don't know. We're getting like inside baseball on other podcasts now. No, but let's go back to Nathan Ballard's comment and a little bit less inside baseball. Bryan, question for you here. What are on your I must go there bucket list, airport wise? It could be for the place or for the airport, either way. I mean, Catalina.
That was one I was thinking of. And I don't know much about these places. Yep. I fly in Texas, which if you've been here, our most outstanding geographical thing is the horizon. There's nothing to look at. It's just But I've heard like Sedona is supposed to be just one of the most beautiful airports to fly in. I want to fly into Leadville. I don't even know what it looks like out there, but I want the shirt. Yeah. So airports that kind of have like I don't know. Oh, that's cool. I got to do that sort of things. Cities and towns and stuff I don't care so much about, but those type of airports, because flying in Texas, it's just ugly and flat and boring. And so unless I go south to the coast or something, I really don't get any kind of eye candy when I'm flying.
I rank them different ways. Some of them are complex airspaces that it's a challenge to get into. Sedona is one of them. It's just the eye candy that you mentioned. Some of them are approaches. Usually a coastal airport is fun to approach in from the ocean, but that's kind of how I categorize mine.
Bryan, have you been to West Texas at all? I flew to Marfa and it was outrageous. I loved it.
I haven't landed in West Texas. I've flown over. My dad and I went to Roswell once. We were like, let's just go do something wild. And so the furthest I've probably gone west is Amarillo, maybe, but not Southwest, anywhere like that.
Have you seen Josh Flowers' videos that are coming out right now? His Marfa, Texas series, right?
It's a Big Ben.
I did see the first one, the Big Ben one where he surprised Chelsea.
I saw the other one's up, but I haven't watched it yet. But apparently Bryan and Josh were like 24 hours away from crossing paths on that.
Strangely enough, it was like It was very strange to be in remote West Texas and then have a couple of guys being like, "Oh man, are you still going to be out there on Thursday?" Like, you know what I mean? It's like, is anybody going to be out here on Thursday? Yeah. I mean, honestly, I had a religious experience, man. I loved it. It was absolutely magical flying out there. And all I can think about is how I want to go back. But you do have to go through the rest of Texas to get there. But no, it was cool. I don't know. I like it all. I mean, I'm sort of like you, Bryan, where it's like, there's nothing, the most mundane flight of any kind is absolutely amazing. And I don't ever take it for granted 1 second. And I think that's one thing that maybe is a little bit different about midlife pilots is that, you know, we're at a point where you tend to take less things for granted as you did maybe when you were younger. Sure. And, you know, you're closer to the fire when it comes to like medical things or whatever. Like anything can come up at any time to just turn all this whole thing off. So I just try to keep that in mind all the time.
Yeah, I just got my first class medical, and like the audible sigh that I breathed when I walked out of that office, that piece of paper is like, okay, don't screw this up.
And then like, well, I'll see you in 6 months.
I know. Like for 2 weeks before my medical, I did nothing but eat spinach and drink water. I was just everything just needs to be okay.
All right,
no drinks, no nothing.
I've got a great video idea, Bryan. You want to hear it?
Let me refer you to the about section of.
Okay. Yeah. I was just picturing like a sort of like a Rocky training montage, for your first class medical. And you're just stuffing spinach in your face and like reading the FAR in.
And that it's like, you know, it's 6 months of training to get ready for every 6 month, you know, doctor appointment. Like the day after the doctor appointment, you're already worried about that. I don't know.
I went home and had pizza and beer. I was like,
but Bryan, keep in mind, I'm a sport pilot. There's a reason for that, right? So it's like medical wise, you know, like you know, so it's the other end of that spectrum from first class to sport, where it's like, I can sign my name, you know, okay, cool, you can fly.
My third class medical, the physician I went to, he would just hand you the eye chart and say, what's the smallest line you can read? And I'm like, well, the bottom one, he's like, okay, 20/20. I'm like, I'm 43. No one wants 20/20 vision at 43.
Yeah. No, just memorize it, right? FCBD.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
OFLCT.
This one, I got glasses the day before my first class medical. I was like, yeah, it's getting dicey. And I went in, my glasses were supposed to show up, and they were like, oh, we thought they were in, they didn't arrive. And I go, I need contacts right now. So they gave me some contacts, and I passed the vision part. Thank God.
So. You're just like cramming contacts.
Oh, yeah, just stacking them in. I'm eating them.
First day wearing contacts. That must have been great. Yeah.
I've never done this before. I got stacks of them now, and it takes in the morning. I'm like my wife now. She's like, "Are you ready?" I'm like, "I'm gonna get it in." It's like six of them on the floor,
and you're like, "Okay, is this one on the floor or is it in the back of my eye?"
I've had that happen. I'm a big eye rubber, and so I'm like doing this, and I'm like, "Oh God, there's something," and I'm trying to like yank it out by moving my eyes.
Oh man, yeah.
So my trifocals are supposed to show up tomorrow at the eye doctor.
So, I'm guessing that's not a joke. Yeah.
I got the ones. It's distance on the top. It's the panel in the middle, and then medicine label at the bottom.
Medicine label.
And it's just an actual medicine label.
So we'll see how that goes.
And it just reads it to you.
Well, that's why I have children, because I can't tell you how many times I've either take a picture and zoom in, or just hand to my son and go, how many of these can I take?
Yeah, it's crazy how lucky we are that we actually got to grow old with the cell phones, because now we can use those without embarrassing magnifiers, right? Or
the last 20 pictures in my phone are medicine bottle labels and whatever small print. I'm just like,
mine is mostly a memory tool. Like, picture of my panel, so I've got my hobs, and I go home and write my log entry. You know, it's like I wouldn't know what it is otherwise. You know, or the fuel settings. You know, things like that. It's like that's half of my pictures are cats, and the other half are usually like memory items. So yeah,
I want to make like a whole Google Photos thing that's just all my tachometers.
Oh yeah.
So embarrassingly, my wife was gone with her sister and her mom for the weekend, and so I was by myself, and I spent the better part of Saturday night going through my Google Photos, pretty much deleting all of the memory items that I didn't need anymore. And it took probably a good solid 4 or 5 hours to get through all of them.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Just delete everything. That's what Bryan's saying.
What? Yeah. Delete it all.
Just get rid of it all.
Life is temporary, man. Just get with it.
That's right.
You know,
it should be.
Actually, I was really all about holding on to everything when I had I was one of those early adopters of the unlimited Google Drive that they let us sneak in, and it was like $12 a month I had like 50 terabytes in the cloud. and then all of a sudden you just get this email one day that you kind of know is coming one day anyway. It's like, hey, we're not going to do this craziness anymore. And you're going to have to. And so I had to go through a whole data migration project. And that was when I just started nuking a bunch of stuff. And I was like, man, this is really freeing. Like, this is really nice. Like, I'm just going to. And then the very next thing next project I got into, I needed some footage, not aviation related, but something else. And I was like, I guess okay, well, I don't have that anymore. You know, so it happened. It wasn't like for you, Bryan, you know, for me, it was like the next day I realized so.
The only thing that saved me and Bryan, I highly recommend this, is have one of your kids grow up and work in a computer store. My middle one works there, and I get some deep discounts on some nice, very large hardware. So
are there computer
stores? That's the only thing that saved me. Yeah. Micro Center.
Oh, I remember Micro Center. Yeah. I've gone full Amazon. I hate it, but I've just I like the fact that I don't have to leave the house, and it can be here by the end of the podcast.
Yeah.
It's a nice savings on the bank account there, though.
Remember how exciting it was to go to Circuit City? Do you remember that?
I love Circuit City. Or Fry's. Fry's was the best.
I was going to say, I miss Fry's. Yeah. Fry's is so great.
Walk around, just look at TVs you're never going to buy and tell the salesman, I'm just looking, maybe.
Micro Center is kind of a combination of a Radio Shack and a Circuit City.
Yeah.
So it's got some really cool stuff in there that if you want to kind of.
We are peak midlife right now. Like stores that haven't existed for 10 years, you know?
Right.
Right. If you ask us for batteries, we're going to ask for your address and phone number.
Yeah. Your phone number. Yeah.
I want to drink some more bourbon. That's good.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. How's your plane doing, Bryan?
It's expensive. I love it. I didn't buy it because I wanted it. I bought it because my children got bigger than I thought they would, faster than I thought they would. And the Grumman just wouldn't do it anymore. And so I was looking for something like a 182, and I got a buddy who had a Comanche, and he goes, for a third the price, you can carry more and go faster. And I was like, okay. So we went and flew in his Comanche, and I was like, I didn't love it, but I love the utility of it. And so I bought one, and for 6 months I hated it. I was like, this thing takes off like a pig. It lands like a pig. You flying down low, beating up the pattern. It flies like a pig. But then, I said, let's go fly. And he goes, you need to get that plane up to 11,000 feet and go fly to Oshkosh. Go fly far while it's, and so up there, flying fast, flying far, carrying stuff. It's a fantastic plane. I've gotten over the weird landing and taking off characteristics. It takes off and lands different than anything else I've flown. But now I've grown to love the plane. And now I'm telling everyone, this is the best plane in the world. It's just the downside is they don't make it anymore, and parts are getting hard to come by. There's two people who were running pretty good online stores for parts, and one just passed away. So it's that part of it's difficult. So I'm like texting people around going, there's this weird screw I need. And, the community's great. People like helping trying to find stuff. But just as far as performance and went to Oshkosh in the Comanche twice now. And in the Grumman, I would split it up over 2 days. And now it's, I don't know, 4.5 hours. And I mean,
what's your cruise in it?
155.
Okay. And you're burning less than 15 an hour, aren't you?
I planned for 15 just because I know I'm probably burning somewhere between 12 and 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have a 182.
Okay.
With the upgraded engine, and
the stall kit.
And a stall kit, which slows it down. So I'm truing out at about 145, but burning right at 15 and a half an hour.
What's your useful?
It's 1,300 pounds.
Okay, that's good. I'm 1,200. Yeah. The thing I like about it, my Grumman, you can tell if it was heavy or a CG was shit. Like in the Comanche, someone will tell me I'm a liar. I feel like it flies the same whether it's empty or full. Like it doesn't seem to care. There have been a couple of takeoffs where we've been at max gross. And I'm like, okay, this is our go, no go point. And 1,000 feet before it, we're off the ground and climbing. So it's a really good airplane.
So if you were going to compare the Comanche to a car, would you say it's kind of like a late 70s Econoline van or something? Like it's just kind of this, I don't know, what kind of car would it be?
I used to have a 65 Mustang. It smells a lot like that. Looks just kind of sweat and fuel. Yeah. So I call it like a muscle car. It does it's loud. It leaks. It is. I guess it is like an old pickup truck, but it's really fast too. So I don't know. I just do tell people, I go, it's not a sports car. It's just think of it as like an old muscle car because it's
retractable gears, so you're getting a little bit more efficiency, but a little bit better fuel economy with that.
Yeah, for sure.
So what's the you mentioned that the flight characteristics in terms of takeoff and landing are different. And I'm sure you've flown probably some Cherokees and 172s and, all kinds of things. But what would you say, like, what's unique about it, or what was weird about it? Or is it just kind of just like a dead feeling, or like, what is it?
Most of the planes I've flown, most of my time is in the Cirrus Grumman. I've flown 172s, a couple other low-wing airplanes. But most of the planes I've flown, they start to feel like they want to fly. And like, even really before you can start pulling back, like they're just coming up and it's just this very smooth thing. The Comanche gets that feeling where it gets light. And it almost wants to kind of dance along the runway a little bit. And it's at this sort of deck angle. I'm exaggerating it with my hand a little bit. But what it tends to do is feel like it's going to take off. And then it'll try to ride up on that wheel and it'll kind of wheelbarrow and bounce. And I'm like, I don't know if I need to hold this down or try to pull it off, or it gets really weird. And so I talked to someone and he said, he came and flew with me and he goes, you need to pull this plane off the ground. Like you're waiting for it to just lift itself off the ground like another plane. And what's happened is it's starting to get light, but the engine's heavy. He's like, when it gets to 85, pull. And so now when it gets to 85, I pull the thing off the ground and we go up. But for the longest time, I was like, I'm so used to just being gingerly manipulating airplanes. And it needs to be manhandled a little bit more.
No, I remember because that's right. Because I saw a video of yours recently where you were coaching someone else how to fly it, and you were telling them that, like, how just to
get it off the ground,
yank it off the runway. And I was like, I immediately went into the comments and I was like, that is not
blocked.
Report you. Yeah.
No, you do. You got to pull off
0 hours in a Comanche, and
my 182 is the same way because it does have a little bit bigger engine in it, and so it does. You can't. I mean, it does kind of get light, but you have to get altitude. You really have to yank it up.
Yeah.
So.
And then the Comanche is the first plane everyone talks about other plane characteristics. it when you're landing, it flies until it's done, and you can't force it on the runway, and you need to be on your speeds because it really does just like in the Cirrus, you can land a little flat and kind of flare, and then it'll kind of like mush down into the ground. Like the Comanche, it like if you pull back, it's going up, and so
right,
and then it's just like smack. So you're trying to time the smack with getting on the ground, and so it's just different. It's not good or bad, but it's so different than the 3 planes I had the most hours in. I expected it to be like all of them, and when it wasn't, I got whiny. But now I've come to accept it, and I like it.
That's awesome. I want to give a quick shout out here. Ted, do you want to go ahead and do it, or
go ahead?
So Papa Golf is actually Alpha Golf's mother, who listens to, who is a devotee to Opposing Basis. And I've met her once at a meetup, and just going on record to say the best beef jerky I think I've ever had in my life was made by Papa Golf. You know, everybody else is out because, you know, she doesn't sell it. It's just you got to know somebody that knows somebody's, but just had to put that out there. So we're glad that you're joining us, Papa Golf. Thank you. Or as we like to call her, Mama Golf.
Yeah. So Bryan, your dad is selling a Cirrus?
He is. Oh, that's so sad. It's tough. It's
does he not? What's his flying status? I don't know much about him, and see him occasionally in your videos.
He's doing the right thing. Dad was a pilot when I was younger, and he got out of it. And I feel like me getting back into it gave him a kind of reason to get back into it. I swear I'm going to ask him one day. I feel like there was probably a phone call where he, was talking to my mom and was probably like, he's going to get himself killed if I don't help him out. And so I got to go get current again after 20 years. And so Dad bought this little plane called the TB9, and he and I flew together in that thing for a while. And then he decided he needed Mom to have something in case something happened to him. And so he got the Cirrus, and Dad doesn't fly enough to be like he'll tell me, he'll be like, Bryan, he's like, I'm driving to the airport. I'm like, should I be doing this? And then I'm like, he's like, I get up and he's like, I'm on the runway, and I'm kind of like, I feel nervous. And he's like, once I'm up, I'm fine. But he's like, I have so much hesitation. I've told him, I was like, well, you're not flying enough. Like you either to quit flying or fly more. Yeah. And so he really loves having the plane. He loves the freedom. He and I love flying with each other, but he finally just kind of said, you know what? He was going to do one big trip to Colorado in his plane. And then he was saying, after that, I may start talking about selling it. And then, his trip was coming up. I said, well, when are you leaving? He's like, well, our flight leaves at such and such. And I was like, so you're flying commercially? He goes, yeah. He goes, I'm going to list it. So I was sad because my dad's my favorite person to fly with, but for me not to have a conversation going, okay, Dad, this is, probably we got to do something. Cause like he never scared me in the plane, and I didn't want it to have to get to that and me taking the keys away. That's a blessing. Cause it's taken away. It's not just going, okay, I think this is unsafe. I need to take your keys away. It's taken a huge piece of freedom. I mean, just a symbolism of, I got an airplane. And to be able to recognize that on his part, I think is huge. And I know he told me, he's like, well, I don't think I'm going to put in the effort to get my instrument. I don't like to fly when it's hot. I don't like to fly when it's cold. It just doesn't make sense. And I was like, I'm proud of you, like, for being able to do that. Cause I don't know how hard that's going to be when it's, it's my turn. But so he's going to wrap up.
He can always call up his son and say, hey, let's go over here. I mean, it's not like he's losing the ability to go somewhere.
One of my favorite father-son moments. So he bought the Cirrus, and he's like, give me a copy of the keys or whatever. And Dad pretty much, he likes to go fast, and he liked his Cirrus or whatever. And I've had unlimited access to it. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. And I remember I bought my Grumman, and I was like, Dad, here's the keys to the Grumman. He's like, I'm never going to fly. He's like, I appreciate it. He went up in it one time, and he's like, this, no, we're not going this slow anymore.
That's awesome.
That's great. So did you keep the mat and the water bottles? It'll be the wrong side of the plane, but at least you can unroll it and pretend that he's flying that, right?
I should. No, those were from US Aviation. I should fly around with a red carpet. Not that even think about that.
That's a good comment here from Bearded Aviator, who by the way, I call him Crazy Mike. I don't know why he stands behind this Bearded Aviator alias.
Well, look at his picture. I mean,
Yeah.
No, that picture screams Mike. I don't know why the Bearded Aviator.
but it really is. I mean, the last video that I made, people were like, wow, you really talk about your dad a lot. To the point where one dull geek was sort of like, what was your relationship with your dad? Was that like before he passed away? I'm like, no. You don't understand. It's like, I never got to show my dad that he was a pilot. I became a pilot. I never got to talk, share and all of that with my dad. And so, I definitely walk around all the time seeing folks that get to fly with their fathers. And it's not a jealousy. I mean, it's more like a quiet rage, but I don't think anybody takes it for granted, but I especially I love seeing it. And
I'm the luckiest of everybody. So we have no aviation in my family whatsoever. My sister married a pilot, and that's who I share my airplane with. First flight I take with my dad was from my hometown of Thomaston, Georgia, down to Apalachicola, Florida to go fishing. And we didn't leave until 7:00 at night. This was in November. It was getting dark. The landing light on the 182 is starting to go out, kind of flickering a little bit. And it was the black hole. And I probably bounced that 182 7 feet up in the air. And I got it down the ground. He goes, Ben, that was one of the best landings I've ever been on in a general aviation airplane. And I was like, this must be your first flight then. So, but he was going on and on how awesome of a landing it was. And
One Dull Geek has a nice comment here of, now I can't even say this word, Apalachicola.
Yeah. Appalachian, he didn't spell it right. It's Chicola, which is it's an old Air Force base, very long runways. The downtown Apalachicola area, they call it the Forgotten Coast. There's no big developments. There's just locally owned restaurants. It's a really, really cool place to go to.
Ben, I was just going to say that your dad was treating you like you were like how fathers do, right? Like you were the best tree in the school play or whatever.
That's exactly what it was. 100%. 100%. The only pilot of the family is also the best pilot in the family.
By default.
I'm his favorite son because I only have 3 older sisters. It just goes right down the line.
You know, what I love about this podcast is it's poison to anyone younger than us, right? It's like we could talk about this for like 6 hours and I just, we have a very specific. Oh yeah, I know. It's very specific. Yeah.
It's like if you were between the ages of 46.5 and 51.4, this is the podcast for you.
But only in aviation can you be 46.5 and people still call you a sport. And you're like, you're like the young guy. You're like,
yeah. I go to my local EAA club and I am the young guy by far. And yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah. Do you know how to make pancakes yet? That's the most important skill, I think. Well, so we should probably start wrapping up happy hour here because, listen, like we're all here just goofing off, but Bryan's taking this serious now. And his channel, I think, is slowly going to become like kind of docudrama or something, right?
That's the hard part. Like, I feel bad because I'm like, lately I'm so busy with work and flying and stuff. Like, I just don't have any funny ideas, and funny videos take so much effort that I'm like, y'all just gonna have to suffer through this training with me, and we'll get back to it when we get back to it. Watch it, don't watch it.
You said that on your Patreon too, right? Which is like, how do I go from being 100% silly to
and I will say this: the feedback, and so Patreon, the group is really important to me. The feedback I got, and I told my wife this, and I was like throwing logos out to Dan and going, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And doing all this kind of stuff. And then you guys, for the most part, came back and said, look, you've kind of established that this logo is kind of known out there, and you're like, just be you, do what you want to do, and don't worry about, and I started looking at other people's YouTube channels and the names and stuff. I was like, Baron Pilot doesn't fly a Baron anymore. It's like, it doesn't really matter. So I was like, okay, I said, it's going to take me more effort and stress and worry going, what's going to happen if I change everything versus just leaving as it is and just doing what I do. And if
the brand is already there. The brand is already there. Your brand is, which is a great thing.
Yeah. You are a brand. You are nothing but a brand.
I know.
I mean, who you are and how you produce videos, it's set in stone. Well, it's not set in stone, but as One Dull Geek, said in the chat.
Mark,
thank you. I really like the serious videos you make. I did too. You started commercial at the same time I did, though you finished it probably a month ahead. I was going to do my check right next month.
I need to translate that. You said I really like the serious videos you make.
Serious.
Outside of the South, that's the serious videos.
Sorry.
Well, and I was worried about that. So the channel was like slapstick for 3 or 4 years. And then I made a video about, I had trouble understanding airspace. And so I made this airspace video, which now if you Google airspace, my video comes up, which is great. but early on, people started getting irritated. And then I made a couple of videos flying with my family, and I got a lot of flack. I have noticed now I can make what I want, and I don't get flack about it. People are like, oh, and I throw this out because it happens. People are like, oh, you're trying to be Flight Chops. You're trying to be Josh Flowers. I'm like, I'm not. I just, this is when the cameras were on, and I can throw it away but a big part of my channel for me now, I have this realization that one day I'm going to be an old guy who doesn't fly anymore. And one of my favorite videos on my channel is this video. My daughter didn't call me. She came in, she said, can we go flying? And I was like, I'll drop everything. Yeah. And I'm like, I love that video just for me to go watch. And so there's value in it for me, knowing that I'm creating a little bit of a scrapbook too. So lately people are being very kind with respect to me making non-funny videos. So the feedback I got from Patreon, and then just kind of thinking about big picture. So I've decided that I'm not planning on rebranding. I'm just going to do what I do. And if people don't like non-funny stuff, then they can watch the next one or whatever. So I was really, really happy about the feedback I got when I posted that on Patreon. So I thought people were going to start going, you need a logo like this or change it to that. And everyone was like, just
dance
do you.
For us. Yeah.
Well, I think also there's this, I think this is a popular thing that happens, right? With people that are comedic is, there's a misinterpretation that's, like we talked about earlier, that's how they are all the time. I think there's also like a quest about sort of, do they even really take this that seriously, or kind of, or are they really that smart? Right. And I'm not saying this is a prevailing belief, but there's kind of this tendency to kind of think that way, I think, with a lot of people in the comedic world. And, it's actually always the case that these are some of the most smart and dedicated and professional people, right? In their craft, they're really craftsmen. And so I think that one of the things that's kind of I think a great thing about what you've been doing is, and I'm not saying I thought this when I started training a few years ago, but I mean, there's some subcompartment of my brain that's kind of like, well, if this guy can do it,
sure.
Right? but I mean that in the, not in a negative way, right? Like, just sort of like everybody doesn't have to be so serious and all this. And in fact, it's almost, and like I just did my tail wheel this past year, and I had the most fun that I ever had flying. And the way that I just explained it in this video that I made recently was, I called it an unwitting osmosis, because I was just having so much fun and just not taking it that hard. I beat myself up a lot. And I think that you're probably one of those kind of people too, right? Like, you're really self-critical about things. And honestly, your comedy is kind of a response, a sort of self-healing response to some of that. Right. And so anyway, I see all that, and I see you progressing, and I find it to be, inspirational, not in a way of like, oh, he can actually do that, but just like,
I mean, those Fisdo trips, I mean, for you doing that for us just to make us laugh. I mean, that's just really.
Yeah, I was turning myself in.
We appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, that's I always joke that the channel started as a defense mechanism because I was getting so much serious hate, so I needed to cope. So, but no, and I really appreciate the feedback. Like I have concerns that people think I don't take it seriously. I have a video coming out tomorrow morning. That's my second vlog for the multi-engine, and I ran it by 3 CFIs and said, tell me. And one guy goes, you're wrong about how you're describing the recovery from a VMC demo. And I said, okay, tell me what I'm doing. I got my notes here, and I went and refilmed it completely. Because what I said, like, I don't care if people think I'm dumb, but there's a school that we went to do this, and I can't shoot them in the foot. And so I need it to be right. And if you saw or didn't saw, I did a video about the glider flight, and I made sure to go, look, we did a pre-briefing here. That we aren't just hopping into planes like cowboys and doing this. So on my serious videos, I do try to emphasize the fact that, this isn't a joke, and I really do take it seriously, because I don't want people to think, oh, the buffoon's going to, do something. It's like, there's kind of a character, and then there's kind of a Bryan the pilot, and Bryan the pilot is in the cockpit. I took some kids flying once several years ago, and when we landed, this little kid goes up to his dad and goes, he's way more boring in the airplane than he is in the And I was like, as it should be.
Yeah. I was like, that's the biggest compliment you could get.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I'm not offended by anything that you would say. Like, my biggest fear is like something would happen to me in a plane, and people would be like, well, of course it's going to be that guy. I don't want to be, I want people who know that when I'm flying, and I think I've come far enough in this that people realize that there's the fun side, and then, but it's kind of an actor, a character.
It's kind of the icing on the actual the vegetables. Like you put icing on vegetables.
It's icing on the vegetables.
No, but it's like you actually.
That's what I'm writing down.
You fly in a mature way, and then you can put out a video that casts it differently. Icing on the vegetables.
Did you just come up with that? That was insane.
I was thinking icing on the cake, but the whole point was that it wasn't cake of the flying.
Before you go, Bryan, just one quick thing, and you'll be done with us. But I want to know what your top 3 metal albums are.
Oh man!
I mean, it doesn't have to be like a perfect list, but it should be pretty good.
Abbey Road. So I am a diehard Metallica fan. I've seen them more times than I can count. Justice for All is a phenomenal album.
Isn't that a weird one, by the way? Because it actually, I think, is their most advanced. Like, it's their peak point, but it was such a weirdly produced record.
Oh, it sounds like, in hindsight, it sounds terrible. I mean, obviously, right? the ongoing stuff about the bass being removed with Jason, et cetera. But and you know what? I will say this. I listen to it now and I listen to Blackened or something. I can tell that a lot of what I'm loving about it is nostalgia, because I remember the first time I heard that band, I was at my friend Ryan's house and I was like, oh, this is scary stuff. Like, I'm scared of these guys. Like, because it was the first time I'd heard metal. And I'm like, should we be listening to this? And then
Tipper Gore is not going to like this.
Oh yeah, no. But so I've followed them for years and years. That was just the introduction to metal, was that album, and me like going, I'm scared of this thing, and then kind of coming to terms with like, well, it's kind of like watching a horror movie or something. Like, these people aren't out going to do the things they say they're doing in their lyrics. Albums is tough. Like, I really was on a Godsmack kick for a while, and I was like, they can't. Their songs are very similar. I always say they can't write a bad rhythm. Their rhythm guitarist, Tony Rambeau, I think is his name.
They're always a Tony.
Yeah, very, very good. And then, I mean, number one, I got to go with anything Nickelback ever did. I mean, that's probably just it's so true to.
I would have been disappointed if it was anything else.
I'm surprised.
Tool 10,000 Days. I don't know if that counts as metal, but fantastic, start to finish.
I thought you were. I just thought for sure, being a Texas guy,
Pantera. Seen them. Vulgar Display of Power. I probably burned holes in that CD by the time I was done playing it.
Yeah.
Daryl was a phenomenal guitarist. I was never crazy. They scooped the mids out so bad. Like, it was amazing talent, but it was like they're trying to get every bit of headspace out of the track. And I know we're going down a weird place here.
No, it's all triggers and kind of yeah.
But it was like, I mean, some of the most talented musicians. Yeah, man. I will say Vulgar Display of Power, even more so. And people purists will say Cowboys from Hell, but I think Vulgar Display of Power was the one I listened to start to finish from them a lot. And then, this is embarrassing, Slayer, Seasons in the Abyss.
Oh, come on,
dude. That is an album. Like, I used to.
First concert ever was Twisted Sister with Pantera opening.
Oh, nice.
Pantera was good live. I saw Pantera, White Zombie, and Godsmack together. And it was like, I was like, shut up. I'm focused. I'm like, this is never going to happen again. And then in the 90s, I saw Faith No More, Guns N' Roses, and Metallica on tour together. And those were my 3 favorite bands at the time. So yeah. And what's funny is I'm looking at 50 and my music tastes have not changed one bit.
They're not supposed to. You're supposed to wear the same clothes. You're supposed to freeze in time. That's what you're supposed to do.
We're
doing it here in midlife. And I want to ask you too, like, well, did you ever get into Helmet?
Just the one song, Unsung, I thought was really good. But then Pantera made that other song that had the same sort of riff to it. And I was like, I'll just listen to that one.
All right. Well, all right. So we'll talk more about Jesus Lizard, all that stuff. We'll get down into the weird punk stuff, but thanks so much, man, for coming. It's been an absolute blast.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me. This was awesome.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. It's great to meet you.
Thanks, Bryan.
Thank you, guys. Y'all have a good one. Fly safe.
We're going to sign you off.
Yep. See you, buddy.
I love having Bryan here.
And Bryan, you can hang out in the back room here if you want, and we'll just shoot the shit after, or you can just disappear and pretend like you never met us, and it's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
We completely understand. So.
Erase this from memory. Yeah.
But happy hour success. We followed no format. We did nothing we said we were going to do, and we had a good time.
Yes.
A lot of great comments from the audience there, live chat. We're glad you joined us. Don't forget, hit the like button, subscribe. We like getting feedback. midlifepilotpodcast@gmail.com is where you send it. We did get some feedback this week. We'll hit on it at the next episode.
Yeah.
You can support us for as little as 99 cents a month on Spotify. We'd love to have the support. It's just to get the bills paid. And also don't forget to send in your Bag of Words segment. We might have some of those lining up as well. So
what is a Bag of Words segment?
Bag of Words. Give us your radio calls that you just stumbled all the way through. I'm working on one as well. So I got to clean it up a little bit, but hopefully I'll have that ready for the next episode.
A low light, your own person, like share with us your low light reel of radio moments.
We'll even take your low light of the week.
Yeah.
You still don't have to do the worst ever.
So getting in the plane for the first time after a month, there was plenty of opportunities for me today to have a low light.
Oh man, I'm so glad you got back. And thanks, Ted, for putting all this together. And
yep.
I was surprised to see Bryan. That was really cool. Great job.
Yep. Absolutely. Glad Alpha Golf from Opposing Bases at least joined us in the chat, and Papa Golf as well. Great to have all y'all in the chat. And next week, what do we say? STC's going to be the topic of the week.
Yeah, we're going to spread the STC.
We're going to go from happy hour and just loose conversation to a bear down conversation on STCs with Professor Ben.
Yes.
Help us all.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, thanks for joining us tonight, and we will see you next week. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks all.